knows the House rules. Number one, in order to allow as many people to testify as possible, there will be a 2-minute time limit per testifier. Please keep yourself muted and your video off while waiting to testify and after your testimony is complete. The Zoom chat function will allow you to chat with the technical staff only. Please use the chat only for technical issues. If you are disconnected unexpectedly, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting. If disconnected while presenting testimony, you may be allowed to continue if time permits. Please note the House is not responsible for any bad internet connection on the testifier's end. In the event of a catastrophic network failure, it may be necessary to reschedule the hearing or schedule a meeting for decision making. In that case, an appropriate notice will be posted. Please refrain from profanity or uncivil behavior. Such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing without the ability to rejoin. First on the agenda are the resolutions, and then we will move to the Senate bills. And decision making will be at 11:30. So first on our agenda for 9:30, we have HCR 74 and HR 63. We do have testifiers who have indicated they will be present to provide testimony to the committee. First testimony we have is Kevin Chang.
Aloha committee members, Kevin Chang on behalf of Kua'aina Ulu Awamo. This resolution is very important to us and the folks we serve. I notice it has 3 committees. I hope that you guys will be able to push it through in time. Other than that, we stand on our testimony. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Next up, we have Wally Ito.
Aloha Chair Gates, Vice Chair Lopresti, and committee members. I submitted written testimony. I stand on the testimony, but I also want to add additional comments. First of all, mahalo, Representative Lopresti and your office staff for helping to push through this resolution. I know Representative Lopresti and I had conversations with Uncle Henry present, and I think Representative Lopresti understands the importance of limu, especially from the coming from the Ewa Kapolei area. And this resolution is very important to help to create awareness of limu. Limu was once a really important integral part of the Hawaiian culture, and it's an important part of the marine food ecosystem. Sadly, a lot of that knowledge, a lot of that importance have been lost. Today's current generation are not familiar. In fact, many people listening to this may not even know what limu is, and that's kind of sad for me. This resolution is going to go far to help to create awareness and educate people about that importance, following in the footsteps of what Uncle Henry did before he passed away. Yeah, I don't want to take too much of my time. I think I said enough in my written testimony. So mahalo for considering, and mahalo for this opportunity to testify. Aloha.
Mahalo. Next up, we have Leitani Peltier.
Aloha, Chair Gates, Vice Chair Lopresti, members of the committee, Leitani Peltier on behalf of the administration of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, testifying in support of HCR 74 and HR 63, which will help to facilitate a greater appreciation for limu and will also reinforce existing efforts to transmit limu knowledge and practices to future generations. I'd like to note that a similar limu reso was passed out of the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Environment yesterday, amended with additional whereas clauses to recognize the achievements of kupuna, such as Uncle Henry Chang Wo and Dr. Elizabeth Iona Abbott, as well as recognizing the community efforts of groups such as the Limu Huli from Kuaina Ulu Awamo and the Waimanalo Limu Hui. So I would like to respectfully request that this committee consider making the same amendments because the contributions of these kupuna and grassroots organizations have just been so important, not only in restoring our shoreline resources, but also helping us to rediscover our cultural connections. Limu is truly part of our cultural heritage for Kanaka and Kama'aina alike. And so I respectfully urge the committee to pass this measure so that future generations can one day see native Limu in abundance, come to know the Limu traditions, rediscover the Ono for Limu, and understand what it means to have a connection to Limu like our ancestors once did. Mahalo nui for the opportunity to testify on this measure.
Mahalo for joining us today. And that will be our last Zoom participant. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on HCR 74 and HR 63? Okay, seeing none. Any questions, members? Okay. Mahalo to the testifiers for showing up today and providing your testimony. We're going to move on to our next agenda item, HCR 101 and HR 84. First testifier, we have, I don't think we have any testimony on these measures. Member, do we have any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, HCR 127. First testifier we have is Dennis Lee from DBED. Hello, Dennis.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Dennis Ling from Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, representing Mike McCartney. DBED strongly supports this resolution, and we submitted our written testimony and we stand by that testimony. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Seeing that we have no other Zoom testifiers, do we have any questions, members? Rep. LaPresti?
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to ask about how many sister state relationships we have with different prefectures. I know we have in Japan in particular, we have with Hiroshima, I think one of the ones bordering Yokohama. There's 3 or 4 already, right?
Yes, we have 5 actually.
5.
Yes, Okinawa, Fukuoka, Hiroshima, Ehime, and Hokkaido.
All right. How many prefectures are there in Japan?
Oh, you got me there. I think it's 51
I'm fine with it. It's just it's.
or 39. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question.
Oh, thanks. Thanks very much. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions, members? Okay, seeing none, thank you to testifier. We're gonna move on to our next agenda item, HCR 135, HR 115. We have first up, Killen Reese. Okay, yeah, not present. Okay, we're gonna move on to Kevin Chang.
Aloha, Chair, committee members. My name is Kevin Chang. I'm testifying as a citizen and a musician. I'm sorry Kylan didn't make it. Maybe he can't get in or something. I know that this is important to him for all the work he's done. But I also think it's really important for us to start uplifting the artists and the music of Hawaii. And so I appreciate this. I found out about this late last night. I submitted my testimony as right on, and I stand on my testimony. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Okay, gonna make a final call out for Mr. Reese. Okay, seeing he's not present. Any question, members? Seeing none. Okay, we're gonna move on to our Next agenda item, HCR 181, HR 150. We have Mark Ritchie from DBED.
This is Dennis Ling from DBED. DBED stands in its written testimony, offering comments. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no further testifiers, any questions, members? Rep. Presti?
Thanks, Chair. Mr. Ling, I was just hoping you could actually just send my office a list of all the sister state relationships we have. It would just be nice to know what they are.
Yes, definitely. It is listed on our website, our DBED website, as to the sister states, but we'll send you the link. Thank you.
So much. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead, Rep. Ward.
Chair, could I follow up on that?
Yeah.
Mr. Ling, is Bali still on that list?
Yes, Bali is certainly on that list.
We got to make sure. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no further testifiers, any other question, members? Seeing none, we're gonna move on to HCR 182, HR 151. First testifier we have is Georgia Skinner.
Aloha, Chair Gates, Vice Chair Lepresti. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today on behalf of our Director, Mike McCartney, and our Creative Industries Division from the state. We support this measure and look forward to working collectively with our community as well as the Legislative Reference Bureau and our elected officials, because the creative economy is a bright spot for Hawaii's economic recovery. We do have over 54,000 individuals, as we've stated in the testimony, and know that to previous statements about honoring our creatives and our musicians here in the state, as well as all the creative sectors, this will certainly help us to inform from our research the impacts that we have, both positive and those negative impacts because of the pandemic. I do call your attention to the Brookings Institute report, The Lost Art, Measuring COVID-19's Devastating Impact on America's Creative Economy. Hawaii is singled out as one of the top 5 states that has been disproportionately impacted. Thank you very much for introducing this measure.
Thank you. Seeing we have no further testifiers on this 2 measures, do we have any questions, members? Rep. Ward?
Thank you, Chair. How is the Hollywood of the Pacific faring? What is the likely outlook, Ms. Skinner, of the income from TV and other movies, etc.? What does it look like?
Yes, we have had, of course, a great run from 2017 through 2019 of 400 million on average per year of estimated spend, which has driven a lot of excellent economic impact for the state. Unfortunately, of course, due to COVID, the first half of 2020 was impacted, but production is up and in full swing. In fact, 2021 is an unprecedented year with 4 potential television series here. Hawaii's never hosted that many, and we love television production. Why? Because it keeps our people employed year round. It is an opportunity for us to not only work and train people to be in the industry, but it's a clean industry and one that has extreme safety protocols in place, something that I think other industries can benefit from. So it is offering the opportunity for our students that are coming through the pipeline of programs in the university system to be able to find jobs. And we are focused on hopefully seeing a new studio facility built to support that, provided we still have our tax credit in place.
That is good news. 4 TV series. Does that include Magnum PI? There's rumors.
Magnum, yes, Magnum PI. Currently, we have on the ground the Amazon series. It's a series that is actually Amazon's first project, I believe, of this nature in Hawaii, produced by Sony Television. We also have the reboot of Doogie Howser, the Doogie Kame Aloha project filming, and very excited for that for Disney Plus. And then, of course, the announcement recently about the mega franchise from CBS coming to Hawaii, the Hawaii NCIS. So unprecedented times, a lot of impact on our internal staff, which is dwindling because of the pandemic. And we hope very much that we will continue this upswing and be able to keep people employed and help our small businesses that support the film and television industry in our state.
Very quickly, I'd seen on Google that Magnum PI was in a kind of a not renewed, not canceled series. You had some inside baseball on that?
The inside baseball will be probably revealed April or May.
Okay.
I can tell you that I certainly don't believe they're leaving either our Kalaeloa studio or the Diamond Head facility at this time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions, members? I see Kevin, would you want to provide some testimony on this measure?
Yeah, I just want to register my support for these kind of resolutions and bills that support our creative economy and all the things that Georgia says as a former entertainment lawyer and musician who was lucky to have another job. I've seen my band members struggle. And this is important to our culture, our children, and just the creative spark of our people. So put my name as supporting and mahalo.
Mahalo. Okay, seeing no further testifiers and no questions from members, we're going to move on to our next measures, which is HCR 183, HR 152. We have no registered testifiers for Zoom, but we do have testimony in support.
Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
I apologize. I did submit testimony in support for this and strong support last night at about 10:30 p.m. So my sincere apologies. I wanted on behalf of DBED to register our strong support for this reso, as well as bring to your attention that we would appreciate our DBED's director or its designee being included in the Creative Resurgence Task Force. We have been meeting as a group with the Hawaii Arts Alliance, the leads in our performing arts community, as well as our performing arts venues who have been disproportionately impacted. And we do defer to HTA and the counties on any impacts regarding that recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I see Kevin, you have your hand up. Are you providing testimony as well?
Yeah, if this is the next one on the reso, just please register my support. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Okay. Seeing no further testifiers, do we have any questions, members? Seeing none, we are going to move on to our next agenda items. HCR 189, HR 158. We have no registered Zoom testifiers, but we do have testimony all in support. Do we have any questions, members? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to our next agenda item, HCR 191. This bill also does not have any Zoom testifiers, but we do have testimony in support. Any questions, members? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to HR 105. This has also no Zoom testifiers registered for this measure. Any questions, members? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to our last measure on this 9:30 agenda, HR 106. This also has no registered Zoom testifiers, but we, is there any questions, members? Okay, seeing none, we will be taking up decision-making at 11:30 on this 9:30 a.m. agenda. We will recess for 10 minutes before going into our 10 a.m. agenda. Recess.
All right, Chair, we're live.
Okay. Local call, welcome to our hearing for the Committee on Culture, Arts, and International Affairs. Today is March 17, 2021, and the time is 10 a.m. We are convening in room 329. I'm just gonna go over some quick house rules. In order to allow as many people to testify as possible, there will be a 2-minute time limit per testifier. Please keep yourself muted and your video off while waiting to testify and after your testimony is complete. Please keep yourself muted and your video, The Zoom chat function will allow you to chat with the technical staff only, so please use the chat only for technical issues. If you are disconnected unexpectedly, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting. If disconnected while presenting testimony, you may be allowed to continue if time permits. Please note the House is not responsible for any bad internet connections on the testifier's end. In the event of a catastrophic network failure, it may be necessary to reschedule the hearing or schedule a meeting for decision making. In that case, an appropriate notice will be posted. Lastly, please refrain from profanity or uncivil behavior. Such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing without the ability to rejoin. First agenda item we have is SB 83 SD1 relating to government. On this measure, we have no one indicating that they will be providing testimony via Zoom. Is there any testifiers wishing to provide testimony via Zoom?
Yes, Chair. Sorry.
Okay.
Michael Goloyu Jr. on behalf of the LGBT caucus, we apologize for getting in a late testimony. We're here for another bill, but this sort of works out. We apologize, but we do fully support the passage of this bill. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Mahalo. Any other testifiers wishing to testify? Seeing none. Any questions, members? Seeing none. Okay, we're gonna move on to our next agenda item, SB 537, relating to American Sign Language. First testifier we have is Deborah Jackson.
I'm here. Let me start my video. Good morning, Chair Gates,
Good morning.
Vice Chair Lopresti, and the members of the committee. My name is Deborah Jackson. I'm a certified sign language interpreter as well as a disability advocate that works with the community. And so I'm here in support of this measure. I'm a member of the Deaf and Blind Task Force, and American Sign Language does have its own grammar and syntax, so it does meet a lot of the qualifications of a foreign language. And just for your information, I did not include this in my testimony, but the University of Hawaii at Manoa does offer American Sign Language as a course that will fulfill the foreign language requirements of anyone that graduates from UH. So there are people that take American Sign Language there. So we hope that you will support this bill. You did hear the House version of the measure, but because it was a triple referral, it did not make it through all three committees. And so this is the only version of the bill that we have alive so far. So I ask for your indulgence and hopefully your support for this bill. Thank you.
Mahalo. Seeing no other Zoom testifiers that have indicated they will be present, is there anyone wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none. Any questions, members? Seeing none. Mahalo for your testimony. We are going to move on to our next agenda item, SB 697, SD1, relating to Kalaupapa Month. First testifier we have is Joseph Lapaleo.
Good morning, Chair Gates. Good to see you. Members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak on Senate Bill 697, Senate Draft 1. I am Joseph Lapilio, the Executive Director of Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa. We are an organization of residents, descendants, and supporters of Kalaupapa. We are in place at the behest and at the encouragement of residents who more than 20 years ago encouraged the creation of Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa. At the time, we had a very robust number of residents participating. Now, as you know, Uncle Boogie Kahilihiwa passed away several weeks ago. We now have 11 remaining residents at Kalaupapa. Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa, as you might surmise, is fully in support of Senate Bill 697 to establish Kalaupapa Month. I submitted testimony, but I would like to very quickly summarize some of the amendments that were made to the original draft by the Senate, and we would like to look at making some changes on this. First is on the, and these are outlined, by the way, in the testimony I submitted. First is a reference on page 1 to the disease. We would like to have that removed. This bill is really intended to highlight the positive, the potential, and the strength of the residents of Kalaupapa. We see the reference to disease as counter to what it is we're trying to do with the bill. Number 2 is that the Senate did include the names of the original inhabitants of Kalaupapa. We think this is a wonderful touch. We really appreciate them doing this. There is incorrect spelling of one of the names, however, and so my testimony does have that correction. Third is, let me see, we would like to reinstate a reference to the United Church of Christ into the bill that was taken out by the Senate. And then lastly is to mention that Ka'ohana is one of 2 entities that is recognized by US Congress to be operating at Kalaupapa. So Chair Gates, if you need, I'll be more than happy to work with committee staff or whomever on these matters as we go forward. And with that said, are there any questions?
Mahalo. We have one more testifier and then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and thank you for being here today. Really appreciate it. Good to see you as well. Okay, we're gonna move on to our next testifier, DeGray Vanderbilt. Oh, can you please unmute yourself? Okay, we can hear
Sorry
you.
about, is it okay now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Thank
now.
you. Thank you for this opportunity to testify. I'm a member of the Ka'ohana Board of Directors, and I have been involved with Kalaupapa a long time. As a matter of fact, the last 27 years, I've been representing Santa Claus at the Kalaupapa Annual Lions Christmas party. And my good friend Boogie Kahilihiwa, who just passed away, he and I were close friends, and he was a great president of the Ohana. And I'm hopeful that you folks will consider in his honor and in honor of the residents who signed support testimony, which included Barbara Mark, Boogie's wife, Ivy Kahilihiwa, John Aruda, Pauline Chow, who is a resident of Kalaupapa and also a member of the Ohana Board, and Winifred Harada, that was submitted to you. And the amendments are non-controversial, and they will really give the right perspective to the bill, I think. And there's several written testimonies I think you received that support the amendments as approved by, if approved by the committee. And I noticed one from Paula Akana with the Olani Palace, who mentioned that the Kalapapa Month will allow the Ohana to continue its commitment to educating the public about this special place. And the Ohana has been involved for many years with the state's education community. And as a matter of fact, this book called 600-page book called Kalapapa Collective Memory was Book of the Year a few years ago when it was published. And it was done by the Ohana's historian, Anwe Law, and is a terrific book, which hopefully the schools will adopt as the official text. And so anyway, we have an exhibit on the royal family's connection to Kalapapa, which was amazing, which is on display at Iolani Palace. So if any of you have a chance to get over there to see it, I think you will be surprised at how much information, interesting information is there. And I really appreciate Chair Gates, you scheduling this bill for an early hearing because, as you know, we're under the gun with a triple referral. Last year when it came through and was stalled, we only had a double referral, but hopefully with some organization, we can get through the triple referral this year. So thank you very much for this opportunity to testify.
Mahalo for your testimony and all the work you folks do. We do have a long list of testifiers who indicated they will not be present, all in support. I'm going to open it up for questions. Members, any questions on this measure, SB 69? Okay, seeing none, we want to thank our testifiers for providing insight to this important issue. Mahalo. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next agenda item. We have SB 1023 relating to taxation. First testifier we had is Kurt Cottrell, Dilinar.
Top of the morning to you all. Happy St. Patty's Day. Kurt Cottrell, Administrator of Division of State Parks. Thank you, Chair Gates, Vice Chair and Committee. We really are in strong support of this measure. Our comments really provide background, but in reality, the nexus for using tourism money to reinvest in helping provide the Friends of Iolani Palace some baseline management funds is really critical, particularly now, due to COVID, as with all of us, the Friends are really struggling to maintain their basic costs because the tours have dropped down. And so having a dedicated source from the TAT once it's reinvigorated with visitors, I think is a really good policy call. So thank you for hearing this measure. We really appreciate it.
Mahalo for your testimony. We're gonna move on to our next testifier. We have the EV from Bishop Museum. Okay, not present at the moment. We're gonna move on to our next testifier, Paula Akana.
Hi, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members, and happy St. Patrick's Day. I stand on our testimony, and I echo what Mr. Cottrell just said. We have been struggling. We had to let go half of our staff, and our salary staff all took substantial pay cuts. We actually lost 2 of our staff to the mainland because they couldn't continue on with the pay cuts. So it's really, COVID's really hurt us. We've moved up and opened with tier 3, but even with tier 3, we're only bringing in, actually we're looking at for this first month, like $45,000. So we're still losing about $70,000 to $80,000 a month, even getting to this next tier. So any help, we would appreciate it immensely. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? We have a long list of testifiers, all in support. I'm just seeing if anyone else is on. Okay. Seeing none, mahalo to the testifiers. Really appreciate you being here. We're gonna move on to our next agenda item. Oh, sorry. Any questions, members? Okay, seeing none. All right. Moving on to SB 1413 SD2 relating to the Hawaiian language. We have Kyoki Furia, who indicated he would be here to testify. Not present. Okay, yeah, probably. Kahea, are you there?
Aloha mai.
Aloha. Go ahead.
Ai,
Please provide us
mahalo.
with your testimony.
Mahalo nui, ke aloha no ia uku apau e nā po'o o ka Hawaii a hakau kāna wai. Chair Gates, Vice Chair Lepresti, members Har, Capella, Nishimoto, Tam, Ward, and Yamane. Aloha kakayaka me kākou. I stand by my written testimony in support of the intent of SB 1413. In addressing Article 10, Section 4, I strongly recommend several revisions. The first one is to delete lines 17 and 18 on page 2, Section 3, Section 1-13.5. That says including macrons, glottal stops, and depth. Glottal stops that punctuate the name or word to which they relate, as it does not ensure proper pronunciation, authenticity, accuracy, or appropriateness. An example that I wanted to say was kapi'olani. Having diacritical markings in there is not going to help anyone learn how to pronounce kapi'olani and not kapi'olani. So the diacritical marks won't help, but hearing it, actually, that may help people pronounce it better. I know the bill says it helps with proper pronunciation, authenticity, accuracy. It does not. I also highly recommend that native speakers in the bill be replaced with kaleo o nā kupa, which is a hui of native speakers under the Kauai County. I also highly recommend deleting lines 11 to 13 on page 3 that says mamaka kaiau, a modern Hawaiian vocabulary developed by the Komike Hu'olelo, the Hawaiian Lexicon Committee. Simply because Section 1, lines 2 to 4 states that the state shall promote the study of Hawaiian language, Hawaiian culture, history, and language. It doesn't say to invent new vocab or to replace current Hawaiian language vocab, whereas mamaka kaiau does include newly invented vocabulary developed by the Lexicon Committee that are foreign to native speakers of Hawaiian. To me, that goes in direct conflict with Article 10 of Section 4 of our Constitution. And I wanted to read my last two paragraphs on my testimony. Although SB 1413 SD2 may have been moving forward with good intentions, it does, however, to me, mirror Act 57, Section 30 of 1896, where it does not say to ban the Hawaiian language, but the effects of that the effects of this Act 57 cause us to almost lose the Hawaiian language. To me, as a native speaker of Hawaiian language, this bill in its current form reflects Act 57. It goes a step further than Act 57 because it mandates a version of Hawaiian at the detriment of traditional and native speakers of Hawaiian. This act marginalizes the last Hawaiian language native speaking community in the world. And sadly, it will ensure language death because it won't allow us to speak or use language the way that we normally do. So it is in the best interest of all of Hawaii that we uphold and preserve the Hawaiian language in its most original form in public and government documents and proclamations, as this is in direct alignment with the United Nations efforts to preserve indigenous languages. In my view, language revitalization cannot happen without language preservation. Furthermore, my hope for Hawaiian language is that it continues in a manner consistent with the way it has been transmitted from generation to generation within the native speaking community, and that this be the model that we use in the goal of our Hawaiian language revitalization efforts. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo. I believe that was the last testifier that indicated they would be present. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on SB 1413 SB2? Okay, seeing none. Any questions, members? Seeing none. Okay, we're gonna move on to our next measure. Mahalo to our testifiers. Our last measure, SB 939, relating to Juneteenth Day. First testifier we have is Sandy Ma, Common Cause, Hawaii. Not present. Okay, moving on to our next testifier, Michael Goloyu, LGBT caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii.
Aloha, representatives. Michael Goloyu on behalf of the LGBT caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. I stand in full support of this bill. It's a long time coming, and we do want to especially do a shout out to Miss Hawaii, Samantha Nayland, for her putting together this amazing coalition to move this bill forward. And so we encourage you to pass this bill and encourage the rest of your rest of your colleagues to support it, to get it to the governor's desk. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Okay, we're gonna move on to our next testifier, Samantha Nilin.
Aloha, Chair. Mahalo. I want to thank all of you for unanimously passing HB 1308, the companion bill for this bill. Unfortunately, the House bill died because it didn't reach its second committee. So we appreciate that you scheduled this hearing and expedited hearing our bill. As you can tell, the community support for this bill has grown. We now are supported by the University of Hawaii, Hawaii Pacific University, and Chaminade University. And the reason we were able to reach out to these large educational corporations is because there is such a huge educational value to this bill. There's zero fiscal impact to the state, and there's absolutely no reason to not pass it. There's no reason that it has taken this long for Hawaii to pass this bill, because we are the state with the largest amount of diversity. We are a melting pot, and we need to make sure that we are honoring that diversity and making sure that every single minority in Hawaii feels included. Thank you.
Mahalo. We appreciate your efforts and your testimony today. We have no further testifiers that indicated they'd be here via Zoom. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on SB 939? Okay, seeing none. Any questions, members? Seeing none. Okay, well, we're gonna recess for decision making at 11:30 on both the 9:30 a.m. agenda with the resolutions and the 10 a.m. agenda with the Senate bills. With that, we'll be recessing till 11:30. Recess. Okay, ready? Okay. Okay, we are reconvening for decision making on our 9:30 a.m. agenda. First up, we have HCR 74, HR 63, requesting that the year 2022 be designated as the year of the Limu. Chair's recommendation is to pass this out as an HD1. We are going to provide some technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style. In the title, we're going to be changing requesting to declaring. And then we are also going to adopt amendments from the Senate. We'll add another whereas clause to recognize the achievements of our kupuna, such as Dr. Isabella Iona Abbott and Uncle Henry Chang, whose academic and community efforts to revitalize Limu perpetuated the deeper socio-cultural ties that bind Limu to the islands. We'll add another whereas clause to recognize community efforts like the Limu Hui from KUA and the Waimanalo Limu Hui for propagating Limu species. We'll add the chairperson of the Board of Land and Natural Resources and the Board of Directors and Limu Hui coordinator for Kua Aina Ulu Aumo KUA in the list of recipients of the certified copies of the resolutions. Any questions, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members, we're voting on HCR 74 and HR 63. Chair recommends to pass with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Parr.
Aye.
Oh, she's here. Sorry.
Yeah, she's on.
Aye.
My bad. Aye. Rep Capella.
Aye.
Representative Nishimoto. Representative Tam. Representative Yamane. Representative Ward. Chair, your measure has been adopted.
Thank you. We're going to move on to HCR 101, HR 84. Chair's recommendation is to pass out as a HD1, including technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style. And then because resolutions are only limited to the year in which they are passed, we are going to have to keep it to 1 year. So it'd be 2021, October 11th. With that, Chair, Vice Chair for the, any questions, members? Sorry. Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members, we're voting on HCR 101, HR 84. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Are there any no votes? Seeing none, Chair, your measure's been adopted.
Thank you. We're going to move on to HCR 127. Chair's recommendation is to pass out as is. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members voting on HCR 127, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Our next measures are HCR 135, HR 115. Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members voting HCR 135, HR 115. Any reservations? Any no votes? Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you. Next measures are HCR 181, HR 150. Chair's recommendation is to pass out as a HD1 with just tech amendments. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members voting HCR 181, HR 150. Any reservations? Any no votes? Chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay. Moving on to our next agenda item, HCR 182, HR 151. Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members voting HCR 182, HR 151. Recommendations pass as is. Any noes? Any reservations? Recommendations adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to HCR 183, HR 152. I do have some amendments to this. We're going to add DBED to the task force and remove Popolo project per the testifier's request. We also have some technical non-substantive amendments as well. And any questions or concerns? Okay, seeing none. Vice Chair for the vote.
Members voting HCR 183, HR 152. Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? Chair recommendations adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to our next measures, HCR 189, HR 158. Chair's recommendation is to pass out as a HD1 with tech amendments. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members voting HCR 189, HR 158. Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any no votes or any reservations? Sorry, go ahead. Rep Ward.
If I may make a comment, and I'm in a foreign, but I'm thinking that the EU and other places need to have a copy of this. It's not just something related to the EU.
Okay,
It's a worldwide phenomenon. It pretty much limits it to, it limits it more than it should.
we'll add that to the committee report. Thank you.
So that's a upvote, Ward, Rep Ward. Thank you. So seeing no reservations, seeing no votes, chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, moving on to HCR 191. Recommendation is to pass out as a HD1 with tech amendments. Any questions, concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members voting HCR 191, chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Are there any reservations? Are there any no votes? Seeing none, chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, moving on to HR 105. Recommendation of the chairs to pass out as a HD1 with tech amendments. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members are voting on HR 105. Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Are there any reservations? Are there any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted, Chair.
Thank you. And our last result for the 9:30 agenda is HR 106. Chair's recommendation is to pass as a HD1 with tech amendments. Any questions, concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members are voting on HR 106. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any no votes? Chair recommendations adopted.
Okay, we are going to move into our 10 a.m. agenda for decision making. First agenda item is SB 83 SD1 relating to government. Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair's we're voting on SB 83 SD1. Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Har.
Aye.
Representative Capella.
Aye.
Representative Nishimoto. Representative Tam.
Aye.
Representative Imane. Representative Ward. Chair recommendations adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to SB 537 relating to American Sign Language. Chair's recommendation is to pass this out as is. Any questions, concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members, we're voting on SB 537. The chair's recommendation is to pass unamended. Are there any no votes or any reservations? Seeing none, chair recommendations adopted.
Thank you. We're going to move on to SB 697 SD1. Chair's recommendation is to pass this out as an HD1, making technical amendments and taking up the request of the Kalau Papa Ohana and making non-substantive technical changes to the purpose statement. Any questions, concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Chairs, members were voting on SB 697 SD1. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? Chair recommendations adopted.
Okay, moving on to SB 1023, SD2, recommendation of the chairs to pass this out as a HD1, breaking out the dollar amounts and submitted it into the committee report. Any questions, concerns? Members seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members are voting on SB 1023 SD2. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Are there any no votes? Chair recommendations adopted.
Okay, we're gonna move on to SB 1413 SD2, relating to the Hawaiian language. This bill definitely has a lot of work to do, and it still has a couple more committees to go through. So the recommendation of the chair is to continue this conversation and move this out as a HD1. We are going to add in a recognition of those who do not use Okinas or Kahakos from the unbroken Native Hawaiian speaker community. Remove all mentions of accurate, appropriate, and authentic or proper, misspelled, and incorrect to consistent and inconsistent. We want to clarify that we are trying to establish a standard for the purposes of consistency in state government, not to call another person's way of using Hawaiian as unauthentic or incorrect. This will also, we're going to make an amendment to require that state highways and signs along the state highways must conform to the provisions of this bill when replacing the signs. And then we are also going to make some technical amendments. And with that, any questions or concerns? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members are voting on SB 1413 SD2. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations?
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
sorry
Chair.
about that. I have some additional amendments and I apologize. Before we take the vote, just want to let the committee know that we will also be defecting the date. We also note that signs, emblems, and symbols do not need to conform to this bill unless they are being replaced or revised. I want to note that this bill is, again, a triple referral bill, so the discussion on this bill will continue. And we'd like to provide an opportunity to move this forward. And with that, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Right on. Good changes, I think. Members, we're voting on SB 1413 SD2. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair, vote aye. Are there any reservations? Or are there any no votes? Seeing none, Chair recommendations adopted.
Thank you. And our last bill, SB 939, relating to Juneteenth Day. Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Any questions, concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members are voting on SB 939. Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. And that adjourns our decision making. Thank you.